Oh, I'll tell you, doing these videos in the afternoon and good afternoon. Uh, I'm sitting here waiting, and it's a totally different feeling for me than it was doing them in the morning. And I get all day to think about what I'm going to talk about, which I guess is a good thing, except that I usually have it ready way earlier than I used to get things ready uh, when I was doing them at 4:44 a.m. instead of p.m. Anyway, as I said, good afternoon. The title for today is Parallel Realities During the Transition. The blurb goes like this. The last 2 days on this channel, we have talked about CVACs, the structures being created to replace corporations, which many of us realize are legal fictions created in the world of fraud and deception to enslave people. It will take time, though not a lot, to transition from the old world to the new. Paradigm shifts are not instantaneous, but they can happen fairly quickly. For right now, it is important for those who have gone down the rabbit hole to discover the nature of the matrix, to know that we will have parallel realities for a while, with the new system rising from the shadows of the old as everything gets revealed to a mostly unsuspecting, brainwashed, and apathetic public. We can be thankful that visionaries have been willing to stand in the gap despite being ridiculed and misunderstood by those around them. It is as it has always been. The creative dreamers are the ones who bring positive change, while the majority remains asleep in the nightmare, afraid of waking up and rocking the boat. And I'm including two quotes that I'm going to read to you in a little bit from Ayn Rand, A-Y-N, I think that's pronounced Ayn Rand, about government. Because, and I've been doing a lot of studying lately, the government corporations are the most important ones that we're going to change. Because the objective of everything that we're doing now in the awakening is to liberate humanity, to set all men and women everywhere free. And in order to do that, there must be accountability. There must be responsibility. Each of us must take responsibility for our own lives, and those that we choose to help us, and the key word there is help, to assist, they must be accountable to a high standard and must be willing to be bound by an oath that limits them. That was the initial intent of our forefathers in establishing the republic, for those of you that don't know that. And a democracy and a republic are not the same thing, and we do not have governments in our world. We have corporations falsely posing as governments and pretending to serve humanity. But if anybody has looked around lately, you realize that they do not serve humanity. They serve corporations and corporate interests and financial interests, in other words, banks. And they serve the interests of false religions to keep people bound. Religion, remember, comes from the Latin word which means to bind. Okay? And religions have bound us to beliefs that we are less than, we are sinners. Everything is an illusion, so it really doesn't matter. And it doesn't matter whether you're talking about Eastern religion or Western religion. Both of them bind us to something that makes us less than who we are. We are children of nature, or of nature's God, as our forefathers called it in the Declaration of Independence, which I read from yesterday. Anyway, governments are the most important corporations that need to be changed, and the financial institutions, the banks, are the other one that needs to be changed. Now, the Pope, interestingly enough, has issued some kind of a decree, which I will talk about more on some future video. But as I understand it, September 1st is a deadline that no more will the de facto governments be able to hide behind the cloak of non-accountability. In other words, there's not going to be any more limited liability. That every individual operating on the planet is going to have to be accountable for his or her actions. No more hiding behind a corporate veil. No more hiding behind false rules that are set up for your unique society. We all live in one society. It's called the human society. And we're going to have to institute CVACs, which I made the mistake of saying that's creators' asset value centers. And I was corrected. It's creations, not creators, but creations value. And it really, to me, it doesn't make a whole lot of difference whether you use creations or creators, except that one's an object and one's the subject. And when I was thinking about that earlier today in meditation, I'm thinking subject and object. That's how we define words in sentences, right? In grammar. We have a subject and we have an object, and of course we have a verb. A subject means subject to. It means put under something. And an object means you're just an object. But we're not. We're human beings. We're human doers and human beings who have freedom as part of our nature. It's built into us to be free. And yet so many of us settle for so much less. And we live in a literal matrix of bondage, a matrix of slavery to a financial system that is fraudulent, to governments that are fraudulent, to corporations that are fraudulent, to religions that are fraudulent. Everything in our world is fraudulent. CVACs make everyone accountable to everyone else. And government officials, which are servants of the people, there to help the people achieve their dream and help them pursue happiness and meet their needs according to the abundance that's in the world that is to be shared by everyone. Shared, not owned and possessed, but shared. We are to share our abundance, our wealth, our creativity, our productivity with each other, serving one another together. That's the vision that dreamers have of a future. Now some say, well, Ron, that's a utopia. Utopia can't exist. Well, we've allowed the non-utopia to exist for a long time. We've allowed people to get away with non-accountability for a long time and hide behind their corporate veils and hide behind the curtain. We've allowed people to do that for a very, very long time. Too many people are awake to allow it to keep happening. Too many lights are coming on. The darkness, the hidden things are being revealed, not only collectively, but in our individual lives. All of the demons and the dragons that we've tried to suppress, all of the negative emotions, all of the shadow elements are coming up individually in our lives for us to look at them and heal them. We must, the process of awakening to me is always twofold. The first step is recognizing where we are and owning it. Owning it. Telling the truth about it. That's what owning it to me means. Telling the truth. This is where I am. I'm in a slave system. I'm in a matrix that wants to control me. And I'm not created to be controlled. I'm created to be free. Recognizing that we're enslaved or in a slavery system is the first step. And then realizing that we were created to be free is the second step, and that involves creating something new, redefining ourselves, rediscovering ourselves, remembering who we are. It's all of these things. But the CVACs are a tool that is created to transition us from the old paradigm to the new, from the old system of corporate fraud, which a corporation is a fraud. By definition, it's a legal fiction. It's not true. It's not real. Money is a legal fiction. It's a debt instrument. It has no value. It's a debt. It's not something that has value. It is something that is owed, or in other words, something that is made to enslave us. And it has done a very good job. Where's the money? Where's the money? That's what everybody wants to know when you start talking about new systems. Where's the money? Well, there are very, very wealthy people in the world, believe it or not, and I don't know who they are, but I do believe that spirit is working even in the very wealthy people. And there are very wealthy people that want to fund the changes that we're talking about, making governments accountable to everyone and making sure that everyone's needs are met so that we have our food and our water and our shelter and all of the basic essentials of life. And we have the opportunity to grow, to learn, to expand who we are in awareness, to become educated. These are natural human rights that are they're even written down in the UN Declaration of Human Rights. They're written down in the Magna Carta. They're written down in the U.S. Constitution and specifically the Bill of Rights. They're well known. Our rights are well known, but they've been subjugated to a bunch of people who wanted to rule the world. Now, they've done us a service in the respect that they've awakened us. If they weren't so bad, we probably never would have woken up from our sleep and our slumber. We never would have been spurred on to evolve to a higher awareness. So there's wisdom gained from all of the negative crap that we've had to go through. But it's time for a change. And that's why these creations value asset centers, which you are and I am, are being created collectively to take the place of the corporations that have run the services that are needed in a civilized society. Now I promised Ayn Rand that I would quote from her, and I discovered this on AynRandLexicon.com when she's talking about government. And From the Nature of Government, the Virtue of Selfishness, page 107, she wrote, if physical force is to be barred from social relationships, men need an institution charged with the task of protecting their rights under an objective code of rules. This is the task of government, of a proper government. Its basic task, its only moral justification and reason why men do need a government. A government is the means of placing the retaliatory use of force under objective control, that is, under objectively defined laws. That's what it was. But most of the codes that are on the books are not laws. Laws keep one person. They set up boundaries between people so that one person cannot take something that belongs to somebody else. They cannot violate anyone else's free will. That's a natural maxim, common sense law. Ayn Rand goes on page 109 to say the only proper purpose of a government is to protect man's rights, which means to protect him from physical violence. A proper government is only a policeman acting as an agent of man's self-defense, and as such may resort to force only against those who start the use of force. In other words, police should never instigate force, never, because they are violating rights when they do that. Police need to be retrained. People working in governments need to be retrained. Our attorneys and our judges need to be retrained. Our politicians need to be retrained. Our banks need to be retrained. Everybody in our culture needs to be retrained to understand that the supremacy in the world is human rights. When human rights are violated, there is no freedom. Freedom is challenged. So we have the task in our lifetime, right now, we have the task to create systems, to create structures that allow the transition from the old to the new. For a while, they may have to exist side by side in parallel realities. But ultimately, the old must give way to the new. that which has violated our human rights must be made the protector of our human rights. And this is the task before us. This is the challenge that we are faced with as human beings. And thank God for those visionaries and those dreamers who are willing to see this and are willing to go out on the limb and tell the truth in a world that still, by far and large, is corrupted and hypnotized by the lies that our governments, our religions, and our institutions have told us for all of our lives. But it's time to wake up from the nightmare and create the dream that we can all be free and make it real. It can happen in our lifetime. We don't have to wait for it. There are very powerful people that are funding this change, and we're going to probably hear some announcements in the relative near future. No, I'm not going to give you dates, and I'm going to investigate more on what this papal decree, papal bull, whatever it is, what that means to us, that's coming up on September 1st. So anyway, this is my talk for today, and I hope it's encouraging you to do something positive. If you can't do anything at all, at least support those with your prayers and with your good thoughts and best wishes. At least support those that are doing the work. I hope to be more and more to become one of those, although there's still an awful lot I need to learn. Actually, there's a lot that most of us need to learn. Thank you for listening, and namaste.